باشه. Sponsorship speech nila. On the part of the Senate, the joint public session is resumed.
On the part of the House of Representatives, the joint public session is resumed.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, on the part of the Senate, I move for the consideration of the report of the Joint Committee and its accompanying resolutions of both houses. Number 1, proclaiming the candidates obtaining the highest number of votes for President and Vice President.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Consideration is in order.
Majority Leader is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, on the part of the House of Representatives, I move for the consideration of the report of the Joint Committee and its accompanying resolution of both houses. Number 1, proclaiming the candidates obtaining the highest number of votes for President and Vice President.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. The motion is approved. The Secretary General is directed to read the title of the report of the Joint Committee and the resolution of both houses. Number 1.
Report of the Joint Committee for the canvassing of votes for the presidential and vice presidential candidates in the May 9, 2022 elections. Resolution of both houses. Number 1, entitled Resolution of both houses approving the report of the Joint Committee declaring the results of the national elections held on May 9, 2022 for the office of the President and Vice President and proclaiming the duly elected President and Vice President of the Philippines.
Thank you. Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. May be recognized to sponsor the said measure.
Majority Leader is recognized as chair of the joint panel.
Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues in the Senate, the House of Representatives, ladies and gentlemen, what we have witnessed in the last national and local elections, for me, was one of the most credible, orderly, and peaceful in our elections history. Don't just take it from me, as this is reflected in the assessments of different media outfits, election watchdogs, and civil society organizations, including the Parish Pastoral Council for Responsible Voting. Just more than 2 weeks after the May 9, 2022 elections, we are about to proclaim the duly elected President and Vice President of the Republic. Quite fast indeed. The result of this election is historical in several ways. First, it has the highest number of votes cast in our nation's election history, with an 82% voter turnout, totaling 55,197,306 votes. Second, Mr. President, since the 1987 Constitution, this is the first time that we elected a majority President and Vice President. A phenomenon indeed in a multi-party system under a presidential Republican government. The duly elected President garnered a total of 58.77% of the total votes cast in the last May 9, 2022 elections. And the duly elected Vice President gathered a total of 61.53% of the total votes cast. And third, the canvassing of Congress in joint public session took only 2 days to finish. And I would like to take note that this canvassing is the fastest in our nation's history of elections. Another milestone for Philippine Congress. However, we would like to emphasize, we did not sacrifice transparency and the authenticity of the results for a speedy count. The process was hastened due to several factors. Early on in the canvassing of the Joint Committee, We appreciated the manifestation of the counsels of several presidential and vice presidential candidates. Notably, the counsel for Vice President Leni Robredo, a presidential candidate who manifested that they have a continuing manifestation that they interpose no objection for the canvassing of all COCs brought before us in this body. The same manifestation was made of record by the counsel of Vice Presidential candidate Senator Kiko Pangilinan and Presidential candidate Mayor Isko Moreno. That, ladies and gentlemen, was a magnificent show of statesmanship on their part, and we sincerely thank them for that. It shows the importance of uniting as a people and healing the emotional wounds brought about by this very emotionally charged election. The Joint Committee consensuously examined the certificates of canvass, both the manually transmitted and the printed copy of the electronically transmitted COCs, and painstakingly determined their authenticity and due execution, as required by law and by our rules. The canvassing went on smoothly, except for some instances when the manually prepared certificates of canvass were not found in the ballot boxes submitted to us or submitted to the Senate President by several provincial election supervisors and city election officers. Thus, under our rules, we summoned the concerned provincial election supervisors and city election officers to explain the non-inclusion of the COCs in their submission to the Senate President and asked them to locate the COCs and bring them henceforth to Congress. I have in many times in public expressed my frustration for such failure during the proceedings of the Joint Committee. Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, in this juncture, I would like to urge the Commission on Elections to take remedial steps to ensure that these glaring mistakes would not happen again, hopefully in 2028. For the record, the Joint Committee did not want to sacrifice the accuracy and the count, nor disenfranchise any province nor LGU from this historic process. That is why we even waited for the results of the special elections of Lanao del Sur and several overseas absentee voting areas to complete the canvass of votes. Another factor which truly helped make the canvassing of votes so efficient, Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, was the masterful handling of my co-chair, the Honorable House Majority Leader Martin Romualdez. I would like to say this, ladies and gentlemen. He never left his post throughout the proceedings, not even for lunch, not even for dinner, not even a bathroom break. He truly leads Congress by example, and I salute you, sir. I would like to also take this opportunity to thank the hardworking members of this Joint Committee, my colleagues from the Senate, Senator Nancy Binay, Senator Franklin M. Drilon, Senator Amy Marcos, Senator Ralph Recto, Senator Grace Poe, Senator Pia Cayetano, and our alternate members, Senator Lito Lapid, Senator Risa Ontiveros, Senator Coco Pimentel, Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa, and our colleagues as well from the House of Representatives, Congressman Jesus Crispin Remulla, Representative Abraham Tolentino, Representative Christine Singson Mihan, Representative Sharon Garin, Representative Manuel Manix Dalipe, Representative Juliet Ferrer, and alternate members, Representative Juan Pablo Bondoc, Representative Johnny Pimentel, Representative Alfredo Garbin, and Representative Stella Kimbo. With that, Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, it is my distinct honor and privilege to sponsor the report of the Joint Committee of the canvass of votes for presidential and vice presidential candidates in this historic May 9, 2022 national and local elections. The Joint Committee, Your Honors, canvassed a total of 171 COCs from provinces, highly urbanized cities, local absentee voting, overseas absentee voting, and found all of them to be authentic and duly executed. The results, Your Honor, of the canvass shows that Ferdinand Bongbong Romualdez Marcos Jr. obtained the highest number of votes for the position of president, garnering a total of 31,629,783 votes. With a lead of 16,594,010 votes over the second placer. On the other hand, Madam Inday Sara Zimmerman Duterte obtained the highest number of votes for vice president with 32,208,417 votes, with a lead of 22,879,210 votes over her closest opponent. Allow me to add, Mr. President, matagal-tagal na rin po ako sa politika at maraming eleksyon na rin po ang aking napagdaanan, both local and national elections. At ngayon lang po ako nakakita nitong dalawang kandidato kapag nagmo-motorcade ay kilo-kilometro po ang taong nag-aabang. Sa kainitan ng araw at hindi alintana ang init. May mga rallies din po kami na kasaganan ay nag-uulan at nananatili po ang tao. Yan ang masasabi natin, umulan na tumaraw man ay kasama pa rin po natin ang ating mga kababayan. May mga kaugnayan po tayo na pamilya ang nag-aabang at nagdadala pang sariling baon para sa kanilang tanghalian. Mga galing sa kanayunan, Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, talagang nakakamangha at ngayon ko pulang nasaksihan na ganyan na pagtanggap sa ating mga kababayan sa ating dalawang kandidato. In this election, truly, Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, President-elect Bongbong Marcos and Vice President-elect Sara Duterte were truly rock stars. However, the greater task of the victors today is to unite our countrymen for nation building. That begins today. This weighs heavy on their shoulders. Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, Ecclesiastes 3 says, there is a time for everything. For everything there is a reason and a time for every matter under heaven. Today, let me urge our kababayans, sa ating mga kababayan na nakikinig po na yun, that it is a time to heal from this divisive campaign. It is a time to respect the will of the majority of our electorate. And most importantly, it is a time to unite for the welfare and progress of our people and rally behind our flag and our country. Mr. President, with an overwhelming victory of our President-elect Ferdinand Romualdez Marcos Jr. and Vice President Inday Sara Duterte, I am convinced that the Filipino electorate heeded the clarion call to unite for progress and to get out of the suffering caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. It is a resounding affirmation of the Filipinos' desire to move forward and jumpstart our economy. And finally, today is a triumph of our democracy. Mabuhay ang ating demokrasya. Maraming salamat po.
The Majority Leader of the House of Representatives is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, may I be recognized to sponsor the report of the Joint Committee.
The Majority Leader and Chairperson of the House Panel of the Joint Committees is recognized to deliver his sponsorship speech.
Mr. Senate President, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, guests, ladies and gentlemen, the joint public session of Congress to canvass the votes for the duly elected President and Vice President in the elections of May 9, 2022, is honored and privileged to submit its report to the honorable members of the Senate and the House of Representatives in joint public session. Pursuant to the constitutional mandate of Congress and the instruction of the joint session of Congress, the Joint Committee convened on May 24, 2022 to canvass and tally the votes for the President and the Vice President. After just a day of canvassing, the task had been completed and we were set to proclaim the duly elected President and Vice President of the Republic of the Philippines. The proceedings of the 2022 joint public session has been the fastest canvassing of the presidential and vice president elections results in the country since it adopted the automated election system. Foremost, due recognition must be given to the members of the Joint Committee who work round the clock to canvass the votes in order to proclaim the winners in the soonest possible time without sacrificing accuracy and fairness. The Senate panel headed by the Senate Majority Leader Juan Miguel Migs F. Zubiri, Senator Maria Lourdes Nancy S. Binay, Senator Franklin M. Drilon, Senator Amy R. Marcos, Senator Grace L. Poe, Senator Ralph G. Recto, Senator Pia S. Cayetano as members, and Senator Manuel Lito M. Lapid, Senator Risa Ontiveros, Senator Aquilino Coco III, Senator Ronaldo Bato de la Rosa as alternate members. Likewise, we also take note of the diligence of the members of the House panel. Representative Jesus Crispin C. Remulla, Representative Abraham Bambol N. Tolentino, Representative Christine Singson Mihan, Representative Sharon S. Garin, Representative Manuel Jose Manix Dalipe, Representative Juliet Marie de Leon Ferrer as members, and Representatives Juan Pablo Rimpi P. Bondoc, Representative Johnny T. Pimentel, Representative Alfredo Jr. A. Garbin, and Representative Stella Luz A. Kimbo as alternate members. Credit must also be given to the officers and staff of the Commission on Elections who were able to immediately respond to the directives of the Joint Committee to explain the missing physically delivered COCs. The concerned Provincial Board of Canvassers, through their provincial election supervisors, were able to explain before the Joint Committee through virtual communication the whereabouts of the COCs. The chairpersons proceeded with the canvassing of the electronically transmitted COCs and required provincial election supervisors to submit the actual original copies of the COCs. We also commend the members of the Secretariat and the Joint Committee, both from the Senate and the House of Representatives, for their support and assistance, and the members of the media who were with us throughout the proceedings. We also express our gratitude and appreciation to the counsels of the candidates who have manifested their graciousness of their respective candidates in recognizing the integrity of this election. Indeed, the healing of the country has begun, and we urge everyone to unite as a nation. Finally, credit is due to the more than 55 million Filipinos out of more than 66 million registered voters who, amidst the threat of the COVID-19, braved the long queues to exercise their right of suffrage, resulting in a record-breaking 83.11% voter turnout. Indeed, our democracy is alive and vibrant. The ever-growing political interest shown by our electorate is symbolic of the people's clamor for change, prosperity, and progress. The Joint Committee canvassed a total of 171 COCs. 132 COCs were electronically transmitted to the consolidated canvassing system by the Board of Canvassers of the provinces, cities, and overseas absentee voting countries. 39 COCs were physically delivered to the Senate of the Philippines from the Special Board of Canvassers for overseas absentee voting, local absentee voting, and detainee voting. With all the 171 COCs tallied, Senator Ferdinand Bongbong Romualdez Marcos Jr. and Davao City Mayor Sara Zimmerman Duterte obtained the highest number of votes among the candidates for President and Vice President, respectively. Senate Marcos Jr. received 31,629,783 votes, or a lead of more than 16,593,010 votes over his nearest rival, Vice President Maria Leonor Robredo. For the Vice Presidency, Mayor Sara Duterte received 32,208,417 votes and had a margin of over 22,879,210 votes over her closest rival, Senator Francis Nepomuceno Pangilinan. The 2022 electoral campaign period has been polarizing, with the country reeling from the impact of a global pandemic and other major calamities and disasters. It was evident that the nation was divided as to what direction to take in order to move forward. But the majority has spoken. It is high time that we listen to their voice and uphold the outcome of our democratic process. Let us heal the wounds of the political division, brace ourselves for the challenges ahead, and move forward as a strong and united Philippines. Let us be prepared to work harder for the nation and give our full support to the new leadership. At the end of the day, we are all Filipinos, and we want nothing than to see our beloved nation chart its own course and ultimately triumph. On this note, I urge the members of the Senate and the House of Representatives in this joint public session to approve the report of the Joint Committee embodying the resolution of both houses proclaiming Honorable Ferdinand Bongbong Romualdez Marcos Jr. as President and Honorable Sara Zimmerman as Vice President of the Republic of the Philippines. Maraming salamat. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas at ang buong sambayanang Pilipino.
Majority
Thank you,
Leader.
Mr. President. Mr. President, out of my excitement of my speech, I forgot to make the same motion. On the part of the Senate panel, Mr. President, we respectfully recommend to Congress, as the National Board of Canvassers, in joint public session, approving the report of the Joint Committee and Resolution of both Houses, number 1, declaring the results of the national elections held on May 9, 2022 for the office of the President and Vice President, and proclaiming Ferdinand Bongbong Romualdez Marcos and Inday Sara Zimmerman Duterte as the duly elected President and Vice President of the Republic of the Philippines. I so move, Mr. President.
Majority Leader, we would like to
Yes.
entertain a formal motion for the
the
adoption of the resolution.
Yes. Mr. President, we're now ready to proceed to vote for the adoption of the report and the accompanying resolution. On the part of the Senate, I move for the approval of the report of the Joint Committee and the adoption of the accompanying resolutions of both houses. Number 1.
Distinguished members of the Senate, there is a motion by the Majority Leader to approve the report of the Joint Committee and to adopt the accompanying resolution of both houses, number 1. As many as are in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
As many as are against, please say nay.
The country welcomes President-elect Bongbong Marcos and Vice President-elect Sara Duterte. This after Congress finished the canvassing of votes for the country's 2 highest posts. The incoming administration of Bongbong Marcos is set to get the highest budget ever at 5.2 trillion pesos. Economic managers have also laid down recommendations for the next government. and the Marcos camp taps lawyer and vlogger Trixie Cruz Angeles as the next press secretary. Guys, fast, focused, and fearless. Here's a roundup of stories we're watching now. I'm Sean Yao. The Joint Committee of the House and Senate is currently convened for the proclamation of Bongbong Marcos and Sara Duterte. Let's listen in.
And resolution of both houses number 1 is adopted.
The Majority Leader of the Senate is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. On the part of the Senate, pursuant to the adopted resolution of both houses number 1, I have the honor to move for the proclamation of the
Duly elected.
duly elected President of the Republic of the Philippines and the duly elected Vice President of the Republic of the Philippines. It was in a blank. It was
Yeah.
blank, Mr. President. I wanted to make sure that one was not ahead of the other. So I was worried about that blank.
I have it.
Thank you, Mr.
Is
President.
there any objection? The chair hears none. On the part of the Senate, I proclaim Ferdinand Romualdez Marcos Jr. as the duly elected President of the Republic of the Philippines. And Sara Zimmerman Duterte as the duly elected Vice President of the Republic of the Philippines.
The Majority Leader of the House of Representatives is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, on the part of the House of Representatives and pursuant to the adopted resolution of both houses number 1, I have the honor to move for the proclamation of Ferdinand Bongbong Romualdez Marcos as the duly elected President of the Republic of the Philippines and Sara Zimmerman Duterte as the duly elected Vice President of the Republic of the Philippines.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. On the part of the House of Representatives, I proclaim Ferdinand Bongbong Romualdez Marcos Jr. as the duly elected President of the Republic of the Philippines and Sara Zimmerman Duterte Carpio as the duly elected Vice President of the Republic of the Philippines.
We shall now proceed to the approval of the Journal of the Joint Public Session, and for this purpose, the Senate Majority Leader is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. On the part of the Senate, I move that the Honorable Senate President be authorized to approve the Journal of the Joint Public Session and that such approval shall be considered as the action of the Senate of the Philippines.
Any objection? Chair hears none. The motion is approved.
The Majority Leader is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, on the part of the House of Representatives, I move that the Honorable Speaker be authorized to approve the Journal of the Joint Public Session and such approval be considered as the action of the House of Representatives.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
The Senate Secretary is now directed to turn over the consolidation and canvassing system, the machine, and return all the ballot boxes as well as all the pouches containing the certificates of canvass and election returns to the Commission on Elections. So directed.
President, on the part of the Senate, I move that we designate the members of the Senate panel for the Joint Committee as members of the Notification Committee.
If there is no objection, the Chair appoints the members or designates the members of the Senate panel of the Joint Committee as designated members of the Notification Committee.
Mr. Speaker, on the part of the House of Representatives, I move to designate the members of the House panel of the Joint Committee as members of the Notification Committee.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. The members of the House panel of the Joint Committee are designated as members of the Notification.
You are seeing live scenes from the Batasan Pambansa in Quezon City, the venue for the proclamation of the new president and vice president-elect. 171 out of 173 COCs canvassed, considered the fastest phase of canvassing. The canvassing was quick because Robredo's camp had no objections and Congress voted via voice to approve the canvass reports. There were some nay votes that were heard from the Makabayan bloc. Bongbong Marcos garnered 31,629,783 votes, and Sara Duterte got 32,208,417 votes. President Rodrigo Duterte was a no-show at today's proclamation as he is busy meeting with new envoys. Former President Gloria Arroyo of Lakas CMD, however, was present. BBM's mother, Imelda Romualdez Marcos, his wife, Liza Araneta Marcos, were both present for today's event. Also seen in the crowd were couple Tony Gonzaga and Paul Soriano, among others. Marcos Jr.'s sister, Aimee, says that Quirino Grandstand is being eyed for inauguration, but that is still up in the air as the Quirino Grandstand is busy being used as a COVID-19 facility. Meanwhile, the COMELEC says it will look into reports of missing certificates of canvass from several areas. Commissioner Marlon Casquejo said this was likely unintentional due to fatigue. Nevertheless, the poll body said it will still look into what happened and will likely impose appropriate sanctions against erring officials. Certificates of canvass from Mandaluyong, Manila, Cagayan de Oro, and Sulu were found to be missing from today's canvassing. Yesterday, missing COCs from 3 other areas were likewise reported.
So if it's justifiable naman, then pwede naman nating palipasin na lang. Or if it's not, then we will make sanctions of that based on our civil service rules.
We'll be back with more stories after this quick break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Sean Yao. The incoming Marcos administration is being urged to impose new taxes and to forgo exemptions to narrow the debt to GDP ratio. Shaila Francisco with the details.
The incoming administration of President-elect Bongbong Marcos may get as much as 5.27 trillion peso budget for 2023. The Development Budget Coordinating Committee approved the higher budget amid an increase in revenue collections. The Budget Department noted that the approved amount is set, but they can still tweak within the budget.
For prudent fiscal management, we have to stick to a 5.268 budget for 2023. Now, it may be tight, but we have to live within that level if we want to be respected in the international financial community.
The Marcos Jr. administration may also welcome 2023 with more taxes. This as the government needs to start paying debt incurred during the pandemic.
The next administration must find ways to shore up revenues to sustain yung stimulus program, no? Yung Executive Order 166 na yan. Okay, and pay off debts. Pagka hindi natin to seryosohin, okay, lalo tayong mahihirapan na humiram, no?
The Finance Department, for its part, has already come up with a fiscal consolidation plan for the next administration. It includes the postponement of income tax reduction from next year until 2025. The agency also wants to remove VAT exemptions to expand the base and impose taxes on motorcycles, gaming, and others. Finance Secretary Sonny Dominguez said that deviating from these recommendations could have serious implications on the Philippine economy. Some economists agree, although noting that the proposals are painful reforms.
Yung benefits na ma-generate nito will outweigh the costs such that ultimately we can also subsidize din yung mga ma-harm initially nitong mga changes na to.
For now, the National Economic and Development Authority will focus on further reopening the economy. Former NEDA Chief Arsenio Balisacan is set to return as head of the Socio-Economic Planning Agency under the Marcos administration. Shaila Francisco, we are One News.
You're back on One News Now. I'm Sean Yao. We're going to throw you back to the events happening right now at the Batasang Pambansa in Quezon City, where they are proclaiming President-elect Bongbong Marcos and Vice President-elect Sara Duterte. All right, what we are seeing are live pictures from the Batasang Pambansa in Quezon City, where presumptive president or president-elect Bongbong Marcos is entering the plenary hall. Reports have it that Vice President-elect Sara Duterte is already inside the plenary hall of the lower house.
On the part of the Senate, the joint public session is resumed.
On the part of the House of Representatives, the joint public session is resumed.
To our duly elected President, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., to our duly elected Vice President, Vice President Sara Zimmerman Duterte, congratulations. You have been placed by God in this position for a reason. May He lead you into your purpose and may you live it courageously. In every step you take, may God protect you. I pray for God's blessings for your leadership, for you and your family. Congratulations.
I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate our President-elect, Ferdinand Bongbong Romualdez Marcos Jr. Maligayang pagbati po, President BBM. To our Vice President-elect, Sara Zimmerman Duterte Carpio, congratulations, Ma'am Inday. Congratulations also, and thank you to the Joint Canvassing Committee, led by House Majority Leader Ferdinand Martin Romualdez, and Senate Majority Leader Juan Miguel Zubiri, for the swift and fair canvassing that guaranteed the people's faith in our electoral process. Thank you to all the honorable members of the Joint Canvassing Committee and the Secretariat for your hard work and invaluable support in ensuring a historic canvassing that was finished in 2 days. Ngayong araw na ito, Congress bears witness to the unity of our country, a true partnership between the North and the South that has become the unity of all corners of the country. In previous elections, Filipinos voted for President and Vice President from different parties. Finally, this year, we will learn the importance of voting for a tandem, a uni-team that can work together, a uni-team that can collaborate with each other, and a uni-team that can push for a shared national agenda. The people have spoken decisively. This is not just your sweeping electoral victory. This is an overwhelming victory for all Filipinos. This is a victory of our democracy. The gracious acts extended by the camps of other candidates yesterday, which greatly facilitated our proceedings, show the best of what Filipinos can be, even in the most divisive of elections. Nakikita po natin ngayon ang tunay na lakas sa pagkakaisa at pagsasanib puwersa. We need a catalyst, and there is no better example than the unifying force that we have seen and we will see in a government led by President BBM and VP Inday Sara. The Philippines looks forward to your leadership. It is my great honor and privilege to congratulate you both today. Mabuhay po kayo. Secretary General.
Ladies and gentlemen of the 18th Congress, Honorable Sara Zimmerman Duterte, the duly elected Vice President.
And those are the latest updates on today's proclamation. Stay tuned for more stories later on at The Big Story. I'm Sean Yao. We are One News.
The Senate Secretary.
Ladies and gentlemen of the 18th Congress, Ferdinand Romualdez Marcos Jr., the duly elected President of the Republic of the Philippines.
May we request the duly elected President, President Ferdinand Romualdez Marcos Jr., to proceed to the rostrum.
May we also request the family of the duly elected President Ferdinand Bongbong Romualdez Marcos Jr. to accompany him to the rostrum. Tapos natin. Yes. Without any hitches.
Kailangan bumalik yan doon eh.
Okay.
Okay. Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President. Out of all the excitement, we forgot that we have to adjourn. Therefore, Mr. President, on the part of the Senate, I move that we adjourn this historic joint public session.
On the part of the Senate, this joint public session is hereby adjourned.
Majority Leader of the House of Representatives.
Mr. Speaker, on the part of the House, I move to join the joint session.
On the part of the House of Representatives, this historic joint public session is adjourned.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Talo tayo.
Oh, sure.